kanaka do to influence the function and productivity of this aina? What was the function and productivity of this aina in the context of the whole ahupua'a? And so for me, asking these questions, making these observations is really what shaped my career trajectory. I grew up to be a scientist who studies microbes in mud. I literally dedicate my whole life to tasting muds around the world, from the bottom of the ocean to the tips of the mountains. And I study these things that are invisible, that you cannot see, these microorganisms, and how they influence life all the way up to these big macro scales, like whales and ecosystems and all of these types of things. For me, science was a tool for me to malama aina, right? Science is how I connect to my place. Science is how I connect to my kupuna, because our kupuna were like the best scientists on the planet because they could kilo. They could observe their environment so well and understand the pilina between all of these different elements, right? They could understand how the winds and the atmospheres and the moons influenced all the cycles on the land, right? The tides, the oceans, the currents, the geothermal geologies, and how that in turn influenced all of the life on this planet, right? So it's all connected, and our kupuna, because they had the space and the time to sit and observe, right? Nanakamaka, they looked with their eyes. Ho'olohe kapepeao, they listened with their ears, right? Hanakalima, they touched, they worked with their hands. Right? All these things, makahanaka ike, they learned by doing and watching and listening, and they saw the beauty of the interconnectivity of all of the layers of Earth and Earth's being. Right, and that's what I think is so amazing about the science of our kupuna, and that's what I wanted to dedicate my entire life towards. And so I went away to school for a while. I got a PhD. People call me doctor now. I'm a professor at the university, and I teach in the Pacific Biosciences Research Center. And I teach about biology, but from a Kanaka perspective, from how our kupuna could see the biological world and the importance of all of these different intersections. And the cool thing about biology in Hawaii is we're one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. We are this little rock in the middle of the Pacific, and yet we host the most different types of ecosystems on the planet. There's this scale called the Holdridge Life Zone, and it basically depicts all the different types of ecological zones where life can thrive. There's 35 in the entire world. Hawaii has 27 of them. The Big Island alone has 25. So if you don't like the ecosystem you're in, just drive 15 minutes and you'll find one other ecosystem you might fit into, right? And because we have all of those different ecological niches to support different types of life, we have all crazy different types of life. We have all this different diverse biology that makes Hawaii super unique. And one of the most special things that you are here to observe that and know that. And because we're super unique and we have all of these different niches, our tales and our stories and our genealogies have shaped themselves to fit the uniqueness of our different aina, right? My perspective as being brought up in Ko'olaupoko is very different from your perspective as been brought up here in Waianae, right? When I think of home and when I think of things, I'm coming from a wet, green, water, clouds, Ko'olau perspective. You guys are coming from a drier, west side, redder, oranger, nutrient-rich perspective, different types of practices our different communities did, because it was all about the best things to do in these environments. So Hawaii, fun fact, 27 different life zones out of the 35. The next place in the world that comes even close is Brazil. Brazil, huge, like super big. Hawaii, very tiny. You know how many life zones Brazil has? 17. Crazy, right? Like all of these different things. We're so lucky to live in a space that provides such a laboratory right in our backyard. And our kupuna understood that because they kiloed. And so they kiloed all of the different layers, the invisible layers that brought everything together. And one of the most important layers that they thought of was the moon. Why is the moon important? It controls the tides. How does the moon control the tides?
It's gravity.
Gravity. Very good. What else is important for controlling the tides? What? Say it louder.
I encourage my A2
Oh. Chime in, A2. What else? So we got the moon controlling the tides. What else? How does the moon, so the moon's gravitational pull is going to influence the tides. What else did our kupuna know about the moon? Did they look at the moon every day? Yeah, it phases, it changes. How did that control their day-to-day activities? Like what moon would you go fishing on?
Full moon.
Full moon, very good. Why? Because you can see. Yeah, very good, very good.
It indicates the pools of the tides, so the different phases means different tides.
Very good, very good. What other kind things about moons?
They tell you what season is good for harvesting and what season they shouldn't plant crops.
Exactly. The moon is going to tell you about seasonality, when it's good to plant crops, when it's not good to plant crops, right? It's an important astronomical feature to observe, right? If we want to do any sort of biology on this planet, because they're controlling how things grow, how water moves through this space. So I only saw a couple hands that were raised when I'm asking about how tides work, how the moons work, all these things. So no worries, because by the end of this class, we are all going to be super intimately familiar with how the moon influences the tides. And you guys are gonna know when to go and fish and when to go and take scientific samples and all the good stuff. You guys ready? Yeah? Okay. So, first off, when you thought of a UH professor who teaches science, you probably never thought was me. Right, yeah, I know. I kind of break the mold. And so I'm going to break the mold right now too, right? So we're going to learn all this stuff, but we need to ku'iluna. So backpacks off, push in your chairs. Oh girl, you know it. Oh, you're giving away the secrets, bruh. Okay. So, I think it's really important to like loosen up, get that blood flowing, because this is how we remember things. Our kupuna taught everything that we needed to remember through hula. So that's what we're going to do. But we're going to drop it low for the moon, okay? Okay? All right. So get a little bit of space. Feel comfortable. Yeah. Okay, so there's an olelo no'eau. It's called Waiho A'a Ika Hula, Waiho Ika Hila Hila Ika Hale. If you're going to dance the hula, leave your bashfulness at home. So no be shame. We're not judging anybody's dance moves. We're just learning here. We're here, getting all the Ike bombs right now. So, first thing I want you guys to do is point to your pico. Yep, okay. You are the honua. You are the earth. Take a minute, soak it all in. That's heavy. Okay, be the earth, right? Our opu is the earth. We're surrounded by the waters of the earth. Now, our earth in space. What does our earth in space do? Floats, okay. There's a, it rotates, right? Lettuce or let that? On a tilt, right? So we have our pico, we have our earth. We're going to rotate it. Like, let me see your actions. Oh, yeah. Hey, hula time, guys. Yes. Yes. Work it. Hey. What did I just say? No be shame. No be shame. Just go for it. This is Mary Monarch, guys. Mary Monarch. Come on. This is hula halal, aka stem halal. There we go. Stem halal. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, are we rotating? I want to see some hips. You got to warm them up. Come on, come on. Yes, yes. Work it, work it, work it. Yes. Okay, okay. All right, so we have, homo. Okay, so we have our earth, right? It rotates. We also have the sun. Put the sun up, shine bright like a diamond, Mr. Sun, all the way up there. Who rotates around who?
We rotate around the sun.
The earth rotates around the sun, like that. So if I was gonna do it like, it's kind of hard to do that motion. So the sun is just gonna stay solid. Right, everyone put your sun up, let your sun shine. Right on, okay. So the sun is not going to move, because we rotate around it. It doesn't rotate around us. We have the sun and we have the moon. Raise your moon. Who rotates around who?
The moon rotates around us. We rotate around the sun, so we both rotate around the sun.
Very good. So the moon is going to rotate around the earth. So this is how we're going to do it. Rotate your earth. Ami, Ami. Rotate the moon. Rotate the moon. We just did a whole month. Do it 12 more times for a year. Woo, 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 woo. Okay, okay, we got them, we got them. You guys feeling it? You guys feeling it? Okay, okay, very good, very good. Okay, so now we're gonna think about all the different moon phases and how they influence the tides. So we are going to line up our moon, our sun, and our earth. We have our sun. We have our moon. We have the earth. They are in a straight line. The moon is in between our view of the sun. What moon phase is this? New moon. Thank you very much. Anybody know what it's called in Hawaiian? Hilo moon. This is Hilo moon. Ho'opili mai. Hilo. Mai kai. Okay, so when we are like this, the sun is pulling, the moon is pulling. We have all these gravitational forces pulling us. So if we were the waters of the earth, we are getting stretched out into an ellipse, right? And since we're rotating, right, we go from big to small, to big to small. So our tides, our high tides, our highest of high tides are gonna be super high. So we are gonna stand on our tippy toes and we're gonna tide it out with some ummies, like high tide, high tide. Do it, be a tide, be a tide, be a tide, okay? And then, what you guys think is the low tide?
Low.
Super low. So we are gonna drop it low and we're gonna twerk for the moon, okay? Super high, super low. Like, okay guys, like, take a second and recognize that I'm like a couple decades older than you all and I just dropped it hot for the moon. So, like, I wanna see you all do this, okay? Shoobies. Up and low. And how many tides get in one day?
Oh, no, not 12. I'm sorry.
2 highs, 2 lows. So we do it twice. High, low, high, low. All right, okay, all right. We're getting into this. We're feeling the moon. Hina is rolling all through us. Yeah, okay. All right, now what does the moon do? It rotates. We gotta rotate it around. And we're gonna stop right here. We're gonna do the perpendicular. Anybody know what moon phase this is? Half moon, quarter moon, all the different definitions of a moon. Anybody know what the Hawaiian word for this moon phase is? Ole moon.
Ole moon.
Ho pili mai. Ole moon. Okay, very good. So if the moon phase is ole, how you think, like what kind of day do you think it's gonna be? Let me tell you a word. Ole. Yeah, that means no. Right? So ole moons, you kind of normally feel like, oh, it's a rough day, like kind of having all the feels, like things kind of all wangas, like you don't really know what's happening, but what is happening in terms of gravitational force? Yes, the sun is pulling this way, the moon is pulling this way, so your ellipse of water turns back to like a circle. And so how high do you think your high tide is? In the middle. Thank you. It's not as high. So we just kind of like do a little like, ooh, yeah, high tide. What about low tide? It's a circle. So same, exactly. So we kind of just go like a little bit low for low tide. So high and low and high and low. Yeah. I know you guys is feeling it. I can see it. I can see it in your inner eye. In your makas. I know. I can tell. Okay, so then the moon does what? Keeps going to here. What moon is this? Full moon. Why is it a full moon? Halfway point. Yes. Okay.
Because it's on the opposite side of the earth and there is no sunlight to the earth.
So the sun is completely illuminating it, right? And so now we get the water pulling in this direction. We get the moon pulling in this direction. How highs are our high tides?
Wouldn't it be like midway? Because if they're both pulling at the same.
So we went from a circle to back to an ellipse. How highs is our highs? Soup's high. How low is our lows? Soup's low. Let's do it. Ready? And high and low. And high and low. Yeah. Anybody know the moon phase? Hawaiian moon phase? Hoku moon. Hoku. Everybody say hoku. Hoku. Very good. All right, then we keep rotating. What moon is this? Third quarter. Yep. Anybody know the moon phase? It's the same as this one. Ole moon. Very good. What is the difference between tides? Not a lot. Very good. So we're just gonna high tide, kind of high, low tide, kind of low. High tide, kind of high, low tide, kind of low. You get them? And then we go all the way back to new moon. Okay, so now I'm going to call out some moon phases. You guys ready? Makoko. Okay, all right, ready? Hoku moon. Yep. Okay. Show me the tides for Hoku moon. Super high, super low. Super high, super low. Okay, first ole. Ole ku kahi. Oh, yeah, my ka'i. Show me the tides. Ooh. Kinda low. Yeah. Yes. Very good. Okay. Hilo moon. Very good. New moon. Show me the tides. Soups high, soups low, soups high, soups low. Okay, very good. When it is king tides, let me ask you guys one question. When it is a king tide, which is the highest tide that we record here in Hawaii, king tide, highest high tide ever. What moon does a king tide fall on? New moons, very good. Why a new moon?
Because you have both of their gravitational pull.
Because you have both the sun and the moon pulling in the same direction, and that creates the highest, the ellipse, and then you have the greatest difference from your pico, right?
Yeah.
So you have the highest highs. Oh, fire! All right. Okay, so there's a song that goes with this dance. You guys ready? We're gonna do the whole thing. Let's make sure it's all connected. So do some breathing, maybe some stretches. We're going to dance. Oh yeah, get music. We just go and connect them. Okay. Okay, you guys ready? We raise the sun. We raise the moon. Hilo moon. And high. And soup low. And high. And soup low. And move the moon. To ole. And kinda low. And kinda high. And kinda low. And then we move to hoku. Soups high, soups low. Soups high, soups low. Move to ole. Kinda high, kinda low. Kinda high, kinda low. Back to the new moon. Hilo, super high, super low. Super high, super low. Ah, yeah! You guys crushed it! Give you guys a big round of applause. Have a seat. Whew. Okay, so new moons, the difference in tides when there's a new moon is really big or really small. Really big. This is called a spring tide. Right? When there's a really big difference between high tide and low tide, that's considered a spring tide. What moons have spring tides? New moon and full moon. What are the Hawaiian words for those moons? Hoku and hilo. Very good. 2 H's. Hilo and hoku. Very good. When we have an ole moon, what is the difference between tidal height? Not a lot. They're very small. This is called a neap tide. So when we have a neap tides, what moons do we have? Ole or ole. Now ole moons, they tend to be these days of like not productivity. So if you guys kilo yourself and the moon, sometimes when you're having just like a kind of day, and you look at the moon and you go, oh, ole moon. Oh, okay. And then you know when it's not going to be ole moon, then you're going to feel better. It's going to be great. So I know that, so I never schedule exams on ole moons. I give my students the best chance for success, right? Okay, did anybody look at the moon today?
Yeah.
What does it look like? It's like a crescent, yeah? Very good. So has anybody, do you guys look at the moon every day? Yeah, what's, if you go out at 6 o'clock in the evening every night, when you go home, you look at the sky, would you see the moon every single day? No, why not?
Because different seasons have different times the sun sets. So it depends on when the sun sets, it's when the moon's going to come out.
Exactly. So the moon, the different phases rise at different times every day, and they're off by like 50 minutes every single day, right? So this is how our kupuna, they observed all these things, and they created these like really intricate time charts, right? They could totally chart the time based on knowing when the sun rose, when the sun set, and when the moon rose and the moon set. Now what's crazy is because now in this kind of society, we're in kind of like an Arabic, numeric, European kind of mindset, where we think about things in terms of days. Like our calendars are set to the sun, but our kupuna set all of their calendars to the moon. And that was pretty important because, like we talked about before, the moon is controlling all of these different life cycles, right? The moon is telling us when we need to plant or when we need to harvest. Now, why might the moon be really important in understanding when to plant and when to harvest? What does the moon control? Water. Not just ocean water. What else has water? Rain. Us. We have water. Plants have water. So the different moon phases, as they're pulling the waters, are they also pulling the waters through us? Yes. Are they pulling waters through a plant? Yes. They're moving the waters up and down in a plant depending on the phase. So if you were interested in la'au lapa'au, right, in traditional Hawaiian healing, and you wanted to go and you needed to make a medicine that required the low of a plant, right, the leaves, you would watch the moon and you'd wait to the right moon phase where all the water would be in the leaf so that you could get the most potent medicine for your la'au. Right? So our kupuna understood that. If you're going to plant, you're going to want to wait to the moon phase where all that water is going to go into the roots, right? And make sure that you're going to give the roots the best time and that plant the best mode for success in order to grow. Now, cultures all around the world have all of these superstitions around what moon? Full moons, right? We got werewolves, we got all kind scary full moon stories. Why do so many cultures around the world have stories related to behaviors on a full moon? Any thoughts? So the moon is controlling water. So what happens on a full moon is like the water in your own body is pushing up to your brain. And your brain is controlled by all these electrochemical interactions, right? So when you add more water, like if you add water to your Gatorade or your juice, doesn't taste as good, it's watered down, right? So that's what's happening to the signaling in your brain. And some people are not as resilient to handling that, and they get a little bit crazy. And there you go. You have all of these cultures all around the world that have all of these superstitions and stories and mo'olelo about the full moon because it's influencing us and how we behave. So the moon is controlling all these things, right? When we plant, when we do this, and it's because of our knowledge and our kilo of what's happening above us, right? Which is what helped us to engineer some of the premier technologies of our people, right? Our people designed these amazing, intricate ahupua'a systems for agriculture, lo'i, for dryland ag, and they also developed lokoi'a systems, these fish ponds. And I grew up right on a fish pond. I am a pua of a lokoi'a. So they're really important and impactful to me. And the reason they work is because the moon controls the tides. So a lokoi'a is basically an enclosure of an estuary where we grow a lot of limu. And so what happens at low tide, the water from the pond carries all that limu scent out into the ocean. And it entices all the baby fish, all the baby herbivores into the pond. Right? Just like if we was to make cinnamon rolls or cookies or bacon in the kitchen, like you would get enticed into the kitchen and you would go there. As such, the fish pond calls in all the little baby fish. And they come in through a little gate, they go into the fish pond. There's no predators. There is a giant buffet of all they can eat limu, what. They grow big and fat, get really nice and happy, have all the things. But eventually they grow up, right? They get big, fat, adolescence kicks in, adulthood is on the cusp, right around the corner. They're ready to leave. And they want to go out into the world. They want to go out into the ocean, do some utu bang bang activities, and, be free. So what happens is at high tide, the water is coming in and they can smell the outside world. Like they're jumpy, they're antsy, they're ready to go. And so as a practitioner, our kupuna were so ma'a to the behaviors of these fish that they would just wait for the fish to come to them. At a high tide, the water would come in and the adult fish ready to be eaten would come straight to the gate and they would knock on the gate to be let out. So all you had to do was lift the gate and catch the fish. And then you would send out, the biggest fish out to the reef to make sure, you repopulate the reef, right? It's a sustainable ecosystem. And you'd send whatever you wouldn't take back into the fish pond. And so these systems were all developed based on an understanding of tidal flux and tidal flow being very dynamic and dependent on the moon. And the moon is so powerful that the guardians of these fish ponds were all mo'o. And they weren't just like any kind mo'o. They were like mo'o hine. They were like the feminine, raw mo'o. Right? Because these were like super important ecosystems that like sustained a huge amount of food for our populations. So it had to be taken care of. Why would our kupuna have entrusted that space to the guardianship of a wahine mo'o? Any thoughts? Why wahine?
Because the men are probably fighting or something.
Okay, that's one way. Why? What is the relationship between wahine and hina and the moon? Oh, there's cyclical. There's things that happen in women that follow the moon. Right? Oh, 8th grade, we should know these things. Yep. Biology, peeps. Follow the moon. Okay? Wahine are also mothers, and that maternal instinct is pretty fierce, right? Why mo'o though? Like why would we have a guardian be a mo'o? What do you guys think?
Because if you think about
Farmers? Women usually farm? Okay. They can. There's some pretty amazing women farmers. Yeah?
so like as a mother, like if that instinct kicks in and somebody, is kind of greedy, like come the kind, then you're gonna be like,
Yeah. You're gonna be real fierce.
Yeah.
That maternal instinct. But so mo'o, like a dragon, like a reptilian lizard dragon, right? Like fierce, ferocious.
crocodile.
Yeah, but like more Hawaiian. More like a eel-ish dragon.
Oh, like that old lady.
Reptilian, like ooh, scaly, all the things. Mo'o have the capacity to move between land and sea. Right? They're at the intersection of land and sea, which is where a fish pond is, right? Where all this dynamic moon action happens. Mo'o also tend to be known as water guardians. They're like freshwater spirits. And a fish pond, in order for a fish pond to work, it needs fresh water. That's the most important part of a fish pond, right? So our kupuna created these guardians and honored these guardians of these spaces as mo'oahine because of all the elements of protectorship and guardianship, but also the important elements of what makes a fish pond work and function, right? And so they encased all of this phenomenological observation about place into their mo'olelo about their guardians and their caretakers. And so as you guys are getting ready to science your sciencey stuff with your project, you also have the task of being able to put it in the context the way that our kupuna did, through art, through music, through poetry, through dance, so that you can take the knowledge that you've learned and preserve it for the rest of history, right? Just like our kupuna did. They did not leave us these technical documents, like step-by-step PDFs of what exactly to do with these textbooks, right? Aole, they did not. They left us beautiful poetry that we can decode and understand, right? And we have to use all of our levels of our brain to integrate both the knowledge and the physical, but also the spiritual and emotional side of us. So I'm really excited that you guys get to do this, because that to me is why I think our kupuna were like the most amazing scientists on the planet, because they were able to wrap everything so beautiful together. And so for me, that is why science is my passion. That's why science was my career choice and what I wanted to go into. And so what I want you guys to know, and what I want to leave you guys with, is that each of you are unique. You have awesome special gifts. Find your passion. Do it your own way. Do it awesome. No be shame. Go hard. Crush it. Because that is what is going to elevate, lift, and grow you guys.